Happy New Year, everybody. Crazy to believe that we are in 2024, but we are. So I'm excited to have my first uh, live coaching for the year, and I'm excited to see what questions we have, what issues people want me to coach them on. Happy to have you guys here. I definitely want to do a bit of a shout out today for my acceleration coaching, which is for traders who have been trading for a while, who are looking to have a small group support. We're going to go into your relationship to money. We're going to have in week 2 a conversation about the fear of failure and what you can do about it. Week 3, we're going to talk about the fear of missing out, how to absolutely get rid of that for yourself and your trading, never mind in your personal life. We're going to do in week 4 a conversation around discipline and give you guys really some powerful tools and tricks really around how you can make sure that you stay disciplined. Week 5, we're going to talk about greed, how do you navigate greed? And then week 6, managing your ego, managing for both hubris and low confidence, because honestly, both of those can get in the way. So anywho, that is me just saying, I hope if you haven't done an acceleration group coaching with me yet, that you guys think about it. It's reasonably priced. It lasts 6 weeks. I have had some really beautiful things said about it, so I hope you guys will consider it. Tina, it's so good to have you here. Happy New Year to you too. And I'm excited to just see, what's going on for you guys. How are you finding the new year? If you guys get my newsletter, Curtin Call, then I'm not such a fan of resolutions. I'm more a fan of intentions. And if you aren't on my newsletter, please sign up here at thewallstreetcoach.com, which I just put as a link in the comments. So Tina, tell me if you have taken on any sort of intention for the new year, or anybody else that's here that wants to share. And if you guys do want me to specifically speak on any particular topic, please tell me some of the challenges you're dealing with, and I'll be happy to take that on and try to provide some tools and some solutions. One of the things that I wanted to just, talk about today is some of the books that I think are really fantastic around really like nonfiction books about trading. You guys know I'm a big fiction advocate. I read a lot of fiction, but I do read a lot of nonfiction as well. And one of the things that I think a lot of traders don't do is dive deeply into the books that are not so much how-to books about trading, but stories of traders, like Market Wizard series. Jack Schwaker has this huge collection where you get to be introduced to a collection of different styles of traders. But I think having the exposure to all their different styles, all their different stories is incredibly supportive, helps, I think, any trader not feel so alone. And then, of course, there's some standard ones that I always advocate: The Inner Voice of Trading. Also, The Hour Between Dog and Wolf by Dr. John Coates, which is an incredible book. The Intuitive Investor, which is a book from Jason Apollo Voss. He's somebody that's featured, one of the 50 in my book. There are this Education of a Speculator by Victor Niederhofer. There's so many nonfiction books that kind of share the stories of what traders have gone through and the way their minds think. And I really think and invite you guys to consider stepping into all of them, even if those styles aren't going to be your style. It gives you a really great tapestry of the different ways traders can operate. Hoping to do a podcast with another one of Jack Schwaker's traders, John Netto. John is featured in this book from Jack, and he has this fantastic conversation with Jack Schwaker in this book. He's in chapter Well, they don't have chapter numbers, but his title of his chapter is Monday is My Favorite Day. And one of the things I love about John, and I really hope he'll come on my podcast, I'm trying to coordinate with him now, is that he feels that emotions are an indicator, and he's a huge advocate of traders identifying and understanding their emotions, because he feels like, why wouldn't you use every indicator that you have available to you? So I hope we get him on this podcast of mine, Wall Street Coach. And I'm looking at some of the questions here now. Tina says, yes, I'm getting rid of things that no longer serve me. Trading wise, I'm looking back on 23. Discipline was my biggest struggle. Back down to a very small share until that issue is resolved. Good thinking, Tina. I love the way you're thinking there, that you've just, minimized your ability to lose that. So the discipline, I think, is such a great, that you've identified it. That's half the battle. So good job, Tina. The thing about discipline, some people are big advocates that part of the situation with discipline is a lack of willpower. And sometimes that is the case. But what I've noticed is that there's also sometimes things underneath a lack of discipline. And often what is underneath is that there are a lot of needs that a person has that are unmet. They are not fulfilled. The difficulty with discipline, when you don't have your basic needs met, is that you can't afford to stay true to your word. You can't afford to be, in a sense, crystal clear on the values that you have for yourself, because it's almost like you're trying to cross a many-mile highway without any gas in your car. If you don't have your gas tank filled and you're going to take a trip across Utah, for example, you damn well better have a backup of gasoline, because the car runs on gasoline. I truly believe each of us run on our needs being met. So if, Tina, you're open to this, I would say consider if discipline is really the issue for you, or is it possible you are not getting some of your non-negotiable needs met? Because if you don't have those non-negotiable needs met, it's going to be even more challenging to stay disciplined. Now, let's see what you think about what I've just said. Please feel free to give me any comments about what you think. But in my experience, rarely is it simply about somebody who is undisciplined without there being context. It's the context. There's always something underneath, in my experience, when discipline is we're falling short of the discipline we want to have for ourselves. So Tina, why, start to beat yourself up for not having discipline if what's really afoot is that you're not getting your basic oxygen levels met, right? If you liken our basic needs to oxygen, then you can imagine how much, no matter how much discipline you had, you would not be able to, lift yourself up, let's say on a surfboard. If you're drowning and you don't have oxygen, you wouldn't say, oh, that surfer is so undisciplined. No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, he's got no oxygen. So for you, Tina, and anybody else listening, really search yourself. Am I getting my basic needs met? If you're not getting your basic needs met, like nourishment, like sleep, like security, if you're dependent on, other variables that are up in the air right now, it's going to be really hard for you to, quote unquote, stay disciplined in your trading when you're running around on half a tank or less. So it's always important. And this is part of why I'm not such a fan of this grind culture, because in my experience, this is not people when they're not disciplined or they're not a man or woman of their word, there's something else afoot. There's some people out there that are just like, they're just pussies, they're just weak. They're just, no, 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 no. Very infrequently are people just weak. They are depleted. They aren't nourished. They aren't getting sleep. They don't have any support, emotional or otherwise. They don't have certain kinds of self-respect because they've probably been kicked around for their whole freaking life. Like, it's really hard for people to find the oomph inside of themselves to stay in certain situations if they feel like shit all the time. And in my experience, the majority of people have a tendency to not feel good about themselves. And that translates all the time to costly behaviors. But one of the things that's so perfectly described and identified in a book Gabor Mate wrote called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. It's a book specifically about addiction. And what Gabor says is that we as a society, we as a culture have this tendency to focus on the addiction. We have a tendency to focus on the challenge, the problem. Instead, we need to really start as a society, as individuals, to start to focus on what is going on in the first place that's causing so much pain, that's causing so much distraction, that one actually will resort to such incredibly costly numbing, because the numbing isn't the problem. It's an attempt at a solution to stop the pain. So if we begin to start to really look at what is the heart of somebody's pain, what is the belief that that pain has created within somebody, that is what everybody needs to look at. It's so easy today to jump on the bandwagon of something is going on and I'm a shitty person. I'm a person who comes from a place of not ever being disciplined. I'm the kind of person who never keeps my word. I'm the kind of person who just is lazy. Like, that is how most people talk about themselves. And I'm telling you, I don't see evidence of that. I see evidence instead of a difficult experience from someplace in their life that ultimately has now blossomed into a very self-destructive, self-sabotaging line of living. And that's why my, kind of, what do you call it? My, moniker on Twitter is, that I help traders stop self-sabotage and others, right? Because ultimately this is like for right now, I mean, of course, Tina, you have to look and start to investigate, but let's just say it is other needs that are not getting met. Let's just say it isn't a discipline issue for you, that this lack of discipline is actually a symptom of another challenge. Imagine if that is the case and you went for the next year thinking, oh, I'm just undisciplined, when maybe that has nothing at all to do with the price of bread, right? So that's what I want everybody here to really hear, is that if you have costly behavior, if you have a challenge, if you're coming from a place that you are like, ooh, this behavior, this way I'm trading, this experience that I have after I trade is costing me is costing my capital, is stopping me, then I want you to dig deeper. I want you to start to look at what could be possibly afoot, because that is the only way one is able to potentially stop limiting behavior. So, Eric, I know you have a lot of comments there. I'm going to look at your last one first. Subconscious blocks make trading harder. Awareness of the subconscious trauma and the need to unpack where to start. I mean, I think the heart of the matter is that we start with where we are, which is like right now, this concept, and I hope it's okay, Tina, with you. I'm just going to reference back to what you put up. The concept of, because all of us put labels on ourselves, right? Or judgments on ourselves. So right now, Tina said that she noticed she was undisciplined in 2023. So let's just have that be the place. And each of you might have that same description, or you may have another one. But I would say take whatever that description is for yourself, whatever the label is, or the behavior, the name of the behavior that you suspect is the problem. And if you can, I'd love you to try to look at that with as much neutrality and curiosity as possible. And this is when it can get really tricky. I think it's very tricky. Thank you, Tina. I just wanted to make sure you weren't like, why is she picking on me? But I want you guys to realize that most of the time it's tricky because we have so much self-judgment. It's really hard for us to observe ourselves neutrally. So I want you to practice neutrality when you look within, when you start to self-reflect, and curiosity. I want you to be like a little kid, a kid who's really able to not, like if you ever see kids learning how to walk, they fall down all the time. Did they even let it faze them? And most of the time they giggle when they fall down and then make a thing of it and roll themselves back up. Imagine if every one of you here, with every mistake you made in your trading, just started to giggle instead of like taking out the whip and chain and start lacerating your back. Like, imagine if you guys could just be like, oh, I fucked up again. Isn't that hilarious? Imagine how different your relationship would be with yourself and with your mistakes. I'm not trivializing that it's not fun to lose capital, but sometimes I think traders take themselves so goddamn seriously. Loss is part of this. You got to get over the discomfort with the loss, and you got to find a way to look at yourself with neutral eyes instead of judgment, because it keeps you from being able to get to the nut that has to be cracked deep down inside of yourself. All right, Stephen G, what do you say here? Back to making 2% a day. Good job, you, Stevie. 2% is better than no percent. Journaling, prayer, and trusting my system. Trading what I see, not what I assume. That sounds like excellent, excellent advice. I love it. Not being hard on yourself. So hard to do for me. Eric, it's hard for all of us because we live in an incredible culture that constantly tells us we're pansies, that constantly tell us we haven't achieved enough, that constantly tells us we should be more this or more that. We constantly hear this from Twitter to every social media platform, to internal gremlins, to academia, to our parents, to our next door neighbors. Everybody is in this toxic achievement culture. I'm not going to mention any names because I'm not trying to say bad things about this poor guy, but there's a popular podcast that just had a guy on there who's all about discipline and all about the grind. And I'm like, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, we don't need any more of that, people. I'm not talking about not holding yourself up to a high standard. I'm not talking about not pushing yourself beyond comfort zones. I'm not talking about not achieving. I'm not talking about not having, a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not achievement. There's another word I can't come up with right now. It's in my assessment that I give. You guys know I love that assessment of mine, which I'll put that link up too. there's an assessment that I do. And what is the word for this? This one measurement? Hold on. I gotta look it up because it's driving me crazy. It's like an external motivation, and I'm trying to remember what the hell the name of it is. There's an external motivating factor. Okay, here it is. Hold on a second. Let me see what it says. Where is it? It's a willingness to, damn it, I can't believe I can't pick up the word. Sorry, guys, to distract you. But it's that feeling of having like goals for yourself, right? That's the short word, a short thing for it. So the thing is ambition. That's the word I was looking for. I'm not saying to not have ambition, guys. What I'm saying is that it can go too far. I believe the majority of our culture right now is addicted to achievement and ambition, and it's fucking us all up. And it's fucking everybody up who works hard every day, because no matter how hard you work, this obsession, and I want to even call it a pandemic of this achievement mindset, is absolutely sabotaging anybody who puts any kind of effort into anything. You will constantly be feeling like you're not enough. So if you'll see this popular podcast, probably most of you guys watch this guy all the time, and you'll recognize the guy he's on because he's Mr. Always Tough and talking about discipline. And I'm telling you guys, I'm not against discipline, but what I am against is this inappropriate, toxic culture of achievement. Do you have your list? Do you have your phone? Did you do your steps today? Did you check all the boxes? Did you do this? Did you do that? Like, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, did you eat nourishing food? Did you, sleep 8 hours? Did you have it tracked? Did you have this track? Like, guys, it's out of fucking control. I mean, I don't mean to get so upset, but the more I talk about it, like, if you aren't constantly achieving something, if you constantly aren't in an ambition mindset, it's like you're like a leper, right? It's crazy. And I'm telling you, this is all a distraction and a deflection from other things that most people don't want to be with. They are in the doing, because that doing is protecting them from being still, being with the dragons that are inside, being with their gremlins, being with what their relationship to money is, being with their relationship to themselves. I put up a short on YouTube that specifically spoke about what if this were your last year on earth? What if this was it? Would there be certain people you would forgive? Would you even consider forgiving yourself? One man actually said, I will never forgive myself ever. Like, I mean, can you imagine that kind of mindset? And yet, most of us live that way. Most of us come from this place of tremendous judgment with ourselves. And it's costing us, guys. It's really costing us. All right. So let's just see here. I have to go back a little bit here. Steve G said, okay, first, Daria, I'm glad you're here. Daria was the name of Daria Jermaine was the name of one of my best friends growing up was Jesse Jermaine, and his sister's name was Daria in my little neighborhood. Shout out to you, Jesse. We walked to school together for many years. Him and George and Jesse walked me to school almost every day of my school years. All right, so Daria, nice to see you here. Eric says people saying I made 1K today without showing how. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that happens all the time. Steve G says overtrading is the last hill to climb. Dopamine addict sometimes. Okay, so Steve G, I'm gonna suggest to you the same homework I gave to Tina. And I get dopamine is a thing and all of that, but I wonder, instead of labeling it as dopamine, what if there's something else going on with the overtrading, Steve G? I want you to think about, are there emotions outside of trading that perhaps you don't want to be with. Like when any trader is over trading, it could be not so much the dopamine that you're addicted to, but the discomfort with stillness, the discomfort with not taking action, the discomfort with being. And sometimes that discomfort is so incredibly strong that we go for the dopamine hit. Remember, anytime there's an addiction, it's because we're numbing a hard to be with feeling. So the solution here isn't to reduce your need for dopamine. The solution here, although that might help, the solution is, what is it that comes up for you when you're not trading? What is it for you to be still? What comes up for you at the idea of putting your focus elsewhere, be it with people, be it with situations, be it with navigating whatever environment or situation you find yourself in? This is what I'm talking about, guys. It's like we come up with these superficial labels or titles of what we're doing wrong, when actually that is just the symptom. Underneath is the real gremlin, is the real sabotage. And that is what I'd like everybody to look for. All right, so let's see. Jasmine, it's good to have you here. I hope you had a great New Year too, Jasmine. Eric says, online coaching and trading are two of the hardest industries. People never feel good enough. Keeping up with the Joneses mentally should go away, but never will. I think it's very true that there are, I think it's very hard, though, in every industry, because I coach a lot of people outside of trading, Eric. And I have to say, even in the corporate structure, even entrepreneurs, everybody feels overwhelmed with what they expect of themselves by way of producing. The production, the content creators, the people that own small businesses or medium-sized businesses, executives in the C-suite, this grows across the board. People are incredibly hard on themselves, almost never cut themselves a break, cut themselves any kind of slack. And it's really costly, and it concerns me greatly. And I wish somebody would, have a Huberman Lab conversation. Andrew, if you're listening, have me on and I'll teach everybody about these needs, because that to me is the heart of what we need to get to, guys. Most of us are not getting our needs met, and all of these costly behaviors are simply what's happening because we're not getting our basic needs met. I'm glad, Steve G, that you're going to consider it and take a look. Like, there are plenty of people that have a hard time being still because we've been rewarded to keep busy, to keep achieving, to keep, growing. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's something about it having gone past the pale, I find, for most people. So yeah. Eric says, Xanax isn't recommended for trading. I would agree that, look, never say never. I took Xanax when my mother was very sick and was going into hospice. It was a really trying time for me. And I remember the doctor giving it to me, but I was so afraid of it because I really don't like medication, and I'm so sensitive that I remember chopping the pill like in half. And I could feel the feelings of it when I didn't have it. Right, Jasmine? Right? The concept of feeling guilty before resting. Like, even days off that you guys bake in, a lot of you will feel guilty taking it. Like, you should be this, you should be that. I don't know if there's a more powerful gremlin in today's culture than the achievement gremlin, than the, must get better, must get leaner, must get thinner, must get fitter, must get sleep, must get this. Like, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, people, it's across the board. Must not drink, must eat organic food, must cook my own food, must get out and see friends, must do this, must do that. Like, oh my God, it's out of control, folks. It's out of control. All right, Stephen G says, I'm ADHD, easy to hyperfocus, hard to detach at times. Steve G, don't yell at me and don't get mad at me. But again, I want you to remove that label. I don't like labels. I'm not saying that that is not a real diagnosis. Maybe you actually had a doctor diagnose that. Maybe you didn't. Maybe a lot of people today self-diagnose. I get that there is times when people are distracted. I get that people have a tendency to think, that it's that they have this hyper focus and it's hard to detach. I don't know that it's so much about the detaching. It's about just like being in stillness. Like, I think because of the addiction to our phones, it's hard for people to just sit and look out the window and daydream and just not be active. I feel the busyness is our biggest addiction, and the busyness is to protect us from all of the emotions and the feelings many of us have never been taught to feel. None of us have been taught to have. Most of us feel guilty for having them in the first place. And one of the things I wrote down that I wanted to actually review with you guys, let me just open this up in my notebook. I wrote down the other day, and it's the perfect time to bring this up, but I have to get the page because I made myself some notes. Hold on. Where is it here? It was about emotions. So here is, I'm glad, Jasmine, you think I'm on points, because I definitely see it all over the place. And thanks, Eric, for your suggestion to Stevie G. But my suggestion, Stevie, is to not even do that. Here's what I want to advocate. I want everybody who's listening to this to just sit still, without a supplement, without a pill, without a something or other. I want you to just sit for 5 minutes and have whatever comes up for you come. Don't make it wrong. Don't think, even this, we can be like, well, I'm not relaxed. My mind isn't calm. Who gives a flying fuck? I don't care. It's your body processing. Sometimes it just needs the runway, people. We keep wanting to mitigate our emotions and push them down and cut them off and soften them. No, we need them. They need to come up and out of us. They need to be expressed. They need to be felt. When we cut ourselves off from having them come up and out and through us, they're going to stay trapped inside. So if you're distracted, sit for 5 minutes in your distraction with your eyes closed, with your eyes opened, looking out a window. Notice what distraction physically feels like. Notice what it feels like in your body to be distracted. Notice what it physically, the tangibility of distraction. When you feel hyper-focused and you're in a position to come off your desk, sit and notice what it physically feels like to be hyper-focused. I want you to acknowledge your emotions. I want you to surf your emotions. I don't want you to not have them. I don't care how difficult they are. And this is the problem. It's like all of us just want the good ones. Well, too bad, people. You get them all. You don't just get the good ones. The bad ones, or the unpleasant ones, or the uncomfortable ones are part of being human. We cut ourselves off from them as if they're the enemy. They aren't the enemy. They are just an extension of an experience we had. So this is what I want to walk through with the emotions. I'm going to give this to all of you as a homework assignment. You could take it on or not take it on as you see fit. But first, I want people to get comfortable acknowledging their emotions. Get clear on like, oh, I'm feeling jumpy. I'm feeling distracted. I'm feeling undisciplined. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling anger. I want you guys to allow the feeling to come up. And the reason I'm such a fan of that needs list and the feelings list is because often people will label it with a judgment word instead of just the emotion. That's why it's important. I'm feeling anger, right? As opposed to, oh, I'm in a terrible mood. Like that's a label of judging it. I want you guys to get comfortable with your emotions. So to do that, you're going to need to not label them and make them wrong. Then I want you to do something else called understand your emotion. Oh, I'm feeling somewhat grief. I'm feeling sad because I had XYZ happen today or this week, or because I had a losing trade, or because I felt rejected by somebody. That is a big part of what one wants to go through when one has emotions. Then I want you to ask yourself, how does this emotion feel? It feels uncomfortable. It could be, it feels racy. It could be, it feels good. It feels scary. It feels overwhelming. It feels like I'm on tilt. It feels like a feeling I never want to feel again. All of those could be what is happening. But remember, each of us, even in the midst of things like fear or anger, each of us are going to have a different experience of those emotions. What fear for me feels like is going to look very different from one of my loved ones when they're in fear. So this is us understanding ourselves. This is us coming to terms with ourselves and what we are feeling and how come a feeling has come up for us. Then, and this is one of the things that's really important, is we're going to need to find a way to express that emotion. And this is why it's really, really, really important, guys, because a lot of times people are not expressing their emotions. All right, so Jasmine, for some reason, the chat box, I see you have a comment there. Okay, I'm going through a divorce at the moment, so this is really relatable. Well, Jasmine, that alone is going to potentially cost your oxygen, cost your needs. And that's why more than ever before, you want to become a really good steward of your needs. Because right now, whenever going through something that is that volatile and or uncomfortable at a minimum, right? It's very easy to not get our basic needs met. And I really want you to be a steward of those needs right now, so you can potentially give yourself hits of oxygen, because you're going to need that for the journey. And I'm hoping that this is relatable. All right, so I went off on a tangent today, had a lot to say. Please let me know, guys, if you have any questions or anything you want me to coach you on, please feel free to put those in the comments. I'm going to do a quick recap of those 4 steps. You're so welcome, Jasmine. I'm sorry that that's going down, but I know you are strong and you will get through it. But I want you to feel your feelings as you go through it. So understand the emotions, guys. It's really important. Acknowledge the emotions. It's really important because it means you're giving yourself permission. It's giving yourself permission to have them in the first place. All right, I'll finish that list in a second. Stevie G says, sometimes I make my 2% the first 30 minutes of the day, and I find it hard to walk away. If I don't intend to lose a little bit, then fuck around to make it back. So, Stevie G, I'm going to give you a challenge. If you make 2% in the first 30 minutes of the day, I'm going to ask you to commit to just 1 week of walking off the desk. What? How do I ask a question? I'm on Spaces. I'm glad you're here, Kraz. Your question just came in. So right there where you put that in is how you ask the question. So please feel free to throw it in the box because I just saw this one. So that's my homework assignment to you. You don't have to take it on. You can agree, disagree, or counter offer, Stevie G. But my suggestion is if you make your 2% in the first 30 minutes of the day, come hell or high water, you walk off the desk. Is that something you will agree to do for 1 week? That's it. Come back next week and let's talk and let's see how you did. Because there's something after you make that 2%, outside of trading, it's possible that you don't want to be with. And I'd be very curious to know what that is. And the only way you're going to find out is if you go be with it. Now, every time you trade, you don't have to be with it. So this is why you want to get yourself off that desk. All right. So you agree, Stevie G. Everybody's a witness to this, Stevie G. We're going to be checking in with you next week to see how it goes. All right. So Tobias, I'm going to get to you in 1 second. Eric says, feeling upset when people post P&L, unresolved anger, resentment, I don't know. Jealousy involved, just a lack of transparency. People are proud of their accomplishments, just don't see the numbers. It doesn't help. Eric, I'm totally with you. I understand that. I think it's really quite understandable that it feels like people are getting to, represent, like, look at me, I'm such a great trader, and not show the evidence of it. But Eric, this is one of those hard phrases that I learned from Byron Katie, one of my spiritual teachers. It's not a nice saying, so please know that I'm not saying it to you personally. I'm just teaching it to you if you want to use it for yourself. Byron Katie says there's 3 businesses: our business, God or the universe's business, and guess what else? None of our business. So, Eric, you want to ask yourself, are you in your business? If you're not in your business, then take yourself up and out of that. I would say anybody who does that, see if you can find a way. This is like such a crazy challenge to be like good for them. In Mama Gina's School of the Womanly Arts, which was a course I did years ago, when it was all women only, women would hear a woman say a brag. We actually did brag sessions where we bragged about things that were going well for us. And what we would do is we would rub the woman's head who had good news that we were jealous of, or we wanted, or we were happy for them. But we were like, yeah, I want that too. We would go and rub their head. So I want you to metaphorically, Eric, rub their head in the sense of you being able to get that very thing. And the point is, whether they're telling the truth or not, Eric, who cares? Who cares? All that matters is what you do. All that matters is what your work is about. Try to keep your eye on yourself, but believe me, I get it. It's hard to do. It's easier said than done. But that is my homework assignment to you. Are you in your business? And if you are not in your business, you got to get back to your business, because that's the only place any of us can go. All right, Wally, I'm glad you're here. Tobias, I'm glad you're here too. And Eric, tell me next week how that goes. And if it doesn't, we'll come up with something else. Tobias says some of the best trade alerts were set when I spotted emotional waves in price action. That coincided with me recognizing my own emotions at a particular moment. Tobias, or is it Tobias? I think it's Tobias. I'm so happy you brought this up, because that's what this guy, Netto, says in Jack Schwaker's book. I mean, many others say it too, other traders, but he specifically talks, John Netto, he's in Jack Schwaker's book, Unknown Market Wizards. He talks at length about his emotions being an indicator. So I hope that works for you. Tobias, I'm going to suggest you check out, let me just get this off the shelf here. I'm going to recommend, I think you'll love this book. I think everybody will love this book, but Tobias, especially you. This is a book called The Confident Map, Charting a Path from Chaos to Clarity. This is Peter Atwater. He has been on my podcast twice. I'm telling you guys, you have to listen to his podcast. If you don't read his book, listen to the podcast. What he teaches you is how to measure sentiment, how to understand what's happening in the market, because the market is driven by emotions. Hello. Everybody said, no, it's driven by AI. No, it's not. It's driven by emotions, people. And if you don't understand your own emotions, how in God's name can you understand everybody else's emotions? And that's what Tobias is saying. He's like, oh, I'm recognizing that there's emotional waves in the market. Hell yeah, they are. And of course they're inside of you. How can they not be? We are humans, guys. As much as we try not to be, we're always going to be humans. We are emotional. We are emotionally driven, whether we want it to be that case or not. We have to come to terms with this, because every time we pretend like we're not, we're doing ourselves a huge disservice, and we're also blocking out incredible data. That's what Tobias, tuned into. You got yourself plugged in to recognizing that this wave of price action is emotionally driven. When is it not? Jason Shapiro, he's another one. He's in actually this exact same book by Jack Schwager. Jason, I think, is the first interview in here on Unknown Market Wizards. His moniker is, fade, not trade. Like he's all about the sentiment. He goes after those guys and does the opposite of the guys that are like, on CNBC. I mean, it's all emotional, guys. It's all emotional. So Tobias, good job, you. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so inspired, and I'm so glad you're here. All right, Wally, let me get to your question. While he says, I'm new here, always love what you do. Thank you, Wally. It's very nice of you to say. I have a hard time sticking with my discipline. Emotions or bad habits take over, and I break the rules. Any ideas on a potential solution? So Wally, ironically, we just talked about this a little bit earlier with Tina. She talked about for 2023, one of the things she struggled with was with her discipline. Wally, I'm going to suggest the same homework I gave to her. I'm curious if you're willing to just think a little bit about, is this actually true in reference to discipline? Is it possible that it's not so much discipline, but that something underneath is causing you to not be disciplined? So, because you say in your second sentence here, emotions or bad habits take over. So I'm going, and you break your rules. So what I'm going to suggest you look at is the emotion that comes up, right? Some emotion is coming up for you. I also want to say, even though an emotion is different than a feeling, I would love for you to get our needs list. And if you don't have that, sign up on the wallstreetcoach.com. I'm going to actually trying to get myself in here. Wally, if you don't have that, go to the wallstreetcoach.com. I'm putting it in the box here. And in there, I want you to sign up for the newsletter and then write me an email or info@thewallstreetcoach.com and ask me for the needs list, and I'll send it over to you. What I want you to do, Wally, is I want you to, and Kraz, I see your question. I'm just a little behind in answering questions, so I'll get to it. So the thing here, Wally, is I'd love for you to take that list. On one side is universal needs. On the back side are feelings we have when needs are met, feelings we have when needs aren't. I want you to identify what are the feelings you have as you step into your trading. Like, don't do it while you're trading, but before you go into trading or at the end of your trading day, I want you to look at those feelings and identify what ones you have. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's depression, maybe it's frustration, maybe it's apathy, maybe it's anger. Whatever feelings you have, I want you to identify them first, Wally. If you're with me, give me a thumbs up so I know you're still here. Then I want you to turn the sheet over and I want you to identify what are the needs that you are not getting met currently, not getting met personally, not getting met professionally. Once we start to identify what those needs are, then you potentially are in a position to get some of what are non-negotiable needs for you met. And when you have some of your needs met, especially the ones that are very important to you, then you're going to be able to potentially have the discipline. In my experience, when there's a lack of discipline, guys, the lack of discipline isn't in a vacuum. Do you hear that? The lack of discipline is caused by a factor that is infrequently identified. So that's what I'm suggesting, Wally, for you. I want you to identify the emotions, the feelings that you have that happen before you break your rules, right? Because something's happening that pushes you to break your rules. And that's what we want to get clear on. You aren't undisciplined for no reason. There's something happening for you. There's something afoot. There's something going on. And that is what we want to get to the bottom of. All right. So let me just, hopefully, Wally, that makes sense. if you have questions, obviously just reach out. Also, my DMs on Twitter is fine too. All right. So Eric says, Steve, try not to make it back. Easier said than thought. I'm not sure what that means, but I think you mean easier said than done. All right. Stevie G says, Jasmine, I went through it 3 years ago. Stressful. I'm sorry you went through that, Stevie G. All right. And Jasmine giving some love to Stevie. And Kraz, finally, we get to your question. Good for you for waiting so long. Sorry about that wait. All right. Kraz's question is, how do we identify the root cause of the emotion? I'm massively in this boom and bust phase, and it feels like every emotion all at once. This is such a great question, Kraz. I'm so glad you asked it. Anger, fear, FOMO, overtrading, etc. I don't know which one to work on first. Such a good question. So let me speak to this. This is normal, okay? Whenever there is a lot of volatility in our lives, in the market, we are going to have a kaleidoscope of feelings. We are going to have anger. We are going to have fear. We're going to have FOMO. We're going to have overtrading. We're going to have frustration, giddiness, excitement, all happening at the same time. This is also part of being human. So what I would say to you, Kraz, is if you find yourself, that is an experience similar to a pinball machine going on tilt, okay? If you've ever played a pinball machine in, like an arcade, as soon as a pinball machine goes on tilt, what does it do? It shuts down. It stops. It forces the pinball player to take a minute break. It forces the machine to take a minute break so everything can cool down. I would say that's your first line of attack, Kraz. Stop. Like, if you're in the middle of trading and you can't stop, that's different. Well, I'll give you another solution for that. But if you find yourself just all whipped up into a frenzy and you're not in any positions and you are in a position to just pause, then I would highly, highly recommend you do that. For you to be able to get untangled from this kaleidoscope of emotion, you're going to need to be able to breathe. You're going to need to be able to pause. And this is why I am an advocate of more breaks for traders, because there are times when you guys don't even go to the bathroom. You don't even get food because you just keep going. And that alone is telling you you are in the throes of one or more of these emotions. And that sense of have to stay takes you over. So if, Kraz, and only if you can, like at the end of your trading day, go and sit and be with all the emotions that came up for you. I don't know if you know this or not, Kraz, but I'm a huge advocate of journaling out the emotions that came up for you, journaling out all of the feelings that came up for you that day. So identify it. And this is also this exercise of the emotions, Kraz, might be very helpful for you, because acknowledging the emotions is the first step to untangling yourself from them. So let's just say you have this, waterfall of emotions. Again, if you're not in a position, I want you to sit back. Usually it helps to just kind of like close your eyes for a second. I want you to identify all the emotions you're having. Oh, I'm definitely feeling anger. Where do I feel anger? Oh, I feel that in my stomach. It's like a rage. Okay. What else did I feel? Oh, I felt scared shitless. Ooh, where was that? Ooh, that felt like a knot in the bottom of my belly. Okay, that's another feeling I had. This is what I'd like you to do, Kraz. I want you to identify each feeling that came up for you, each emotion, because they all matter. They're all indicators. They're all there trying to tell you something. And the key is, until we get clear on what we're experiencing, we won't be able to understand the language and the guidance they're giving us. So the 4 steps in getting more comfortable with your emotions is acknowledge the emotion, right? That means basically naming it. You got to name it for yourself. You did it right here, Kraz, when you wrote out what you did. Then second is understand the emotion. Oh, I know anger. I'm angry because I set a goal for myself and I'm way far from it, right? Then number three, how does the emotion feel? It feels like I want to throw up. It feels like a cold sweat. It feels like ease. Whatever it feels like, identify. And then I want you to find a way, and this is important, Kraz, to express the emotion, to discharge the emotion. So let's say it's anger. Then I want you to go and find a way to express the anger in a way that won't harm you or anybody around you. What does that look like? It could be doing burpees. It could be doing push-ups. It could be hitting a punching bag. It could be taking a run around the block or up and down a set of stairs 100 times. Why? Because you need to discharge any of the feelings that are inside of you. This is a huge part of you guys being able to not be controlled by emotions. In my experience, Kraz, it's possible that all of these emotions that are coming up all at once for you is because these emotions live inside of you from previous experiences and you never let yourself feel them. The thing about emotions, guys, is that the only way emotions discharge is if we feel them. And if you think about how many emotions you've had in your life that you didn't let yourself feel, you can imagine there's a backlog, a whole huge Grand Canyon hole of backlog. And that is ultimately what I want you guys to discharge, because your ability to be with these hard to be with emotions now is going to exponentially increase if you get rid of the ones from the past. But the only way to do that is to start to focus on what's showing up now. All right, let me see here. All right, let's see. Tobias says, thank you. It's definitely all about thriving in the chaos. Absolutely. All right, Dave, good to have you here. Dave says, I constantly catch myself saying, nothing ever works for me. Whoa, Dave, that is such a powerful statement. You want to get rid of that one as soon as possible after a string of losing trades. That is your gremlin talking, Dave. And I feel that the negative language thoughts impact my ability to objectively find good opportunities. Hell yeah, it does. So the biggest suggestion, Dave, is going to be for you to get the book, Taming Your Gremlin. I just had that one on my desk for my client earlier today. This is the book, Dave. I want you to read this book, and I want you to do the homework. It's a very short book. It's only like 160 pages. Taming Your Gremlin. This is a book by Rick Carson. Also, watch my conversation with Rick Carson. I interviewed him, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. Just look under the Wall Street Coach podcast. Look for Rick Carson and watch that interview before you even read the book, because the book is going to give you the tools. Because that phrase, I'm telling you right now, nothing ever works for me. That is not you speaking to yourself, Dave. That is your inner saboteur. That is your inner gremlin who has got that catchphrase, probably has a bunch more of those negative self-talk. And that is the language of the gremlin. Everybody has these gremlins. Everybody has these inner critics. It's just part of being human, but being able to tame them. And the subtitle of this book is so perfect. It says, a surprisingly simple method for getting out of your own way. Dave, let me know what you think. It's a powerful, powerful book. And I've read it like 20 times. It's the most recommended book in the 17 years I've been a coach, 18 years I've been a coach. It is the number one book I've recommended to everybody, from C-suite level to institutional traders to, retail traders, like you name it. I've recommended that book. All right. So Eric's saying trading position index, does it help identify needs or the trader positioning index, Eric, which I'm going to put here because you brought it up. So thank you for doing that. This thing is so incredibly deep. It's ridiculous. I mean, I've actually had people tell me they feel uncomfortable because it's so incredibly revealing. So ultimately, guys, what I want you to realize is that trading positioning index is to actually look at what is going on underneath the hood of you. So I'm going to put that here. It's not cheap, but it is powerful. The return on investment is through the roof, and it also gets you 2 sessions with me. So I would highly recommend, if you guys do want to look. Oh, Anthony. Hi, Anthony. I'm so glad you're here. You're so sweet. I'm so glad you tuned in, even just for a few minutes. Dave F., I'm so glad that you're going to look. Yes, get rid of that gremlin because it's costing everybody on this call. Anthony, thank you so much for being here. You're a total doll. You're just such an incredible contribution to this community. And I just thank you so much. I did a great interview with Anthony, guys. If you guys watch Anthony Mito's podcast interview with me, what was that, 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, on Investors Underground. Anthony is their podcast interviewer extraordinaire, and he does such a great job with every trader he interviews, and I was very fortunate to be on his podcast. So I hope you guys will check that out. All right, Eric, I'm going to come to your question here. Kraz says, thanks very much. I like the expression of the emotion point. Never even occurred to me. Kraz, believe me, it doesn't occur to a lot of people. So you're not alone there. That's why I talk about it all the time, because I know how helpful it is. Kraz, I'm also going to give you another book because it's specific to emotions. It's a book called Waking the Tiger by Dr. Peter Levine. Very powerful book at understanding our emotions and how to begin to start to discharge them and feel them. Peter Levine is one of my teachers, and he taught me at the beginning of the Waking the Tiger, he talks specifically about how man is the only animal that really doesn't know how to physically discharge their emotions. He talks about the scene where a gazelle is running from a lion, and if it escapes the chase, lives, so to speak, before it returns to the tribe, it will go sit behind the bush and shake and tremor out the trauma. They're in life and death situations every day, but they don't carry trauma, right? The trauma is discharged because they shake it out. Humans haven't been taught to do this. We don't get taught or encouraged to physically, emotionally process our emotion. And that's why we have trauma. Animals that are being hunted multiple times a day don't have trauma because they feel their feelings. Their physicality discharges it. And that is what none of us have been taught to do. And that's why there's so much cost, in my experience. Certainly for me personally, guys, this work that I'm advocating, let me say this shit works. I had to unpack so much fucking shit from my own journey, guys. This is not stuff that's theoretically might work. This is the stuff that helped me transform my entire life, transform my mindset, give me a paradigm shift, help me be able to see that I was not a victim of my life. Everything changed, guys, with these tools. That's why I call them my 5 practices. They are literally my practices. I practice them every day, some days better than others, but they are the tools. They are the tools that set me free. And that is why I'm here sharing them with you guys, because once you get these tools, you're golden. I'm not saying life's going to do everything you want it to, but you will be able to cope with the shit when it hits the fan in a much healthier way, in a heck of a lot less costly way. Doesn't mean you're not going to have challenges. Doesn't mean I don't have challenges. Doesn't mean I don't run up to my own gremlins on a daily basis. But at least now I have tools that, like a ladder, that I can use to climb up and out of the hole when I get stuck in mine. And that's why I want to share them with you guys, because I know they fucking work. And what's the point? You want the tools that are going to work. All right. So the Trader Positioning Index, I'm going to go back to that, Eric. I really do recommend that might be of service to you. Or it's different, granted, but I'm doing the Acceleration 6-week intensive, guys. It's $1,800. It's 6 weeks. We're going to deal with the money, relationship to money. We're going to talk about discipline. We're going to talk about FOMO. We're going to talk about hubris and underconfidence. We're going to talk about all of these things. I mean, if I had my way, Eric, I would say do the assessment, take the 2 sessions with me, and then plug into the group, because the group is fantastic. It just helps traders not feel alone. It's never going to be more than 10 people, so it's going to be capped. It's done by Zoom weekly for 6 weeks. It starts on the 11th. I'd love you guys to be part of that if it sounds like it would serve you. If it doesn't sound like it would serve you, that's okay. I want to still keep doing these. Of course I will, but I want you guys to, like, if you want to go deeper, then come into these different ways I work with people. I just posted up now, guys, the acceleration course. That's the $1,800, 6 weeks with me. And that is it. You'll see the breakdown week by week of what we're going to do. And then the Shane, thank you so much. Shane said the 6 weeks changed my trading, guys. Highly recommended. Thank you, Shane. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for the shout out. So yeah, if you guys want to be part of the Acceleration Small Group Coaching, it starts next Thursday. Sign up on the link. I put the link up here, right here. I just posted it right before Shane's very generous comment. All right, did I miss any questions, guys? I'm going to just go back a little bit here. Jasmine says it sounds amazing. I'm glad. Hope it does sound amazing. All right, Anthony, you're just such a doll. I'm so happy you're here. All right, Eric says, thoughts on this phrase, everything can be solved with more money and a positive attitude. Oh my God, I so don't agree with that statement at all, Eric. I have worked with billionaires, guys. I'm telling you, money does not solve the pain and the problems internally, because you can have all your wants met, right? What is money? What is being a millionaire, a billionaire, having a Lear jet, having an apartment built in, having a pied a terre in Paris, which is one of my dreams. Like, you can have all this shit, guys. Not shit, good shit. You can have all that stuff. But if you do not have your basic needs met, you're not going to be happy. You can have all the wants in the world, but if you don't have your needs met, you're not going to feel satiated. You will definitely have your need for security met, but if you have other needs, such as respect, such as community, such as to be seen, to see and be seen, I promise, without you getting your basic needs met, money alone will only meet your need for security, and then that's it. And I've met actually incredibly wealthy people who don't even have their need for security met, even though they have more money than most of us, because the internal sense of security hasn't been healed. So even with what looks like a lot of money to those on the outside looking in, for those people who are still struggling with an internal sense of insecurity, no matter how much they have, it's never enough. And that is a mindset thing. So at the end of the day, you want to be a steward of your needs, guys, because it's the only way. And Jasmine, I'm going to tweak what you said a little bit there. If you're not happy within, you can't be happy with the externals. I think a lot of people are not able to be happy within because of their gremlins, because their gremlin is telling them that these external measurements are and achievements, and the ambitions are what allow you you earn your worthiness. And that is another big issue, which I won't take on today because I've already gone really long. But the heart of the matter is, I think a lot of people are walking around not being happy within, regardless of their needs, because they feel they're not worthy of belonging, that they have to earn it. And that, to me, is a very damaging thing. A very damaging thing. Jasmine says, too many unrealistic expectations because of what society pushes on us. Yes. And when you think about that, Jasmine, what is the heart of that? It's Madison Avenue, right? If the watchmakers, the jewelry companies, the car companies, the real estate companies tell us that we are only worthy if we have those things, well, what does that make us do? It makes us spend money, whether we have it or not, to finally feel like we belong, to feel like we finally are enough, to feel like we finally are worthy. And that is the pattern interrupt that many of us need to really do for us to be able to go down this path of self-awareness, identifying inner gremlins, identifying our basic needs. All right. Eric says internal versus external locus of control, an entirely different psychological discipline. Yes, it is. All right. I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I went really long today. I had a lot to say. I'm so happy we had so many new people here. I'm always happy for our regulars because you guys make this place what it is. And I'm really glad to see that Twitter Spaces, you can put a comment in here because Kraz, I've never had anybody join here before from Twitter. So I'm so glad it works. And you told me today by doing it that it did work. Tina, I'm so glad you were here today. I'm glad you agreed. Jasmine, Shane, thank you for the kind words. And I hope you guys will consider the acceleration group coaching or the trader positioning index. And if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to ask me. You guys rock. You guys did a lot of deep work today. We had some really good questions, guys, really good back and forth. Thank you to everybody who contributed. These things would be no fun whatsoever without all of you. So I thank all of you for being here, for digging deep, for wanting to improve yourself. Please be nice to yourselves. Get the Gremlin book. Start to unpack that so you don't have a constant, litany in your head making you feel crappy about yourself. Okay. I will say aloha and a hui ho, and I